The deer have been eating my plants, so I'm sorry I didn't be interrupted. Back to the reading. All this and more took place in a business-as-usual atmosphere that sought to conserve and strengthen the corporation's own worldwide marketing preeminence and post-war position in the defeated nations. It reflected not only the pre-war economic arrangement, but the continued intimacy among elites now temporarily estranged by the barriers of international politics, but still seeing eye to eye on matters of corporate profit and survival. Horowitz further revealed that before the war ended, Galen Organization Rockefeller Banking Intermediate Joseph Larkin was encouraged to deposit General Franco's money as well as transfer the Third Reich's bank account to Chase Bank in Paris. This was done even though the Reichsbank was under the personal control of Hitler. In addition, Horowitz's long list of Soviet Military Order Malta members was especially disturbing. After the appointment of Knight of Malta William Casey as head of the Central Intelligence Agency, another Knight James Buckley as head of the U.S. propaganda against Eastern Europe and Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, several historians noted with interest President Reagan's call during the summer of 1982 for a crusade against the evil empire in Eastern Europe. Funny, another military order of Malta guy is Peter Strzok. Strozk. Look that guy up. In addition to Casey... In addition to Casey and James Buckley, its current members or knights after the feudal fashions, including Lee Iacocca, John McCone, William Buckley, Alexander Haig, Alexander D. Maracant, the chief of French intelligence under Giscard d'Estaing, himself a Knight of Soviet Military Order of Malta, Otto von Habsburg, and various leaders of the fascist P2 Masonic Lodge in Italy. Others included Paul Louis Wellier, Grand Cross of Merit, Soviet Military Order of Malta, a close friend of Richard Nixon, member of the board of directors of Renault, and several other French industrial corporations, former administrator of Air France, whose son married the cousin of Spanish King Juan Carlos, Erich von Kuhlnet-Leden, Munich correspondent of William Buckley's National Review, Admiral James D. Watkins, Chief of Naval Operations during the Reagan administration, Thomas Bolan, law partner of Roy Cohn. Bolan is also counsel to the Human Life Foundation, of which former CIA officer and Menegan, editor of National Review. Priscilla Buckley, William's sister, is a director. Jeremiah Denton, longtime U.S. Senator from Alabama, former Rear Admiral, captured by the Vietnamese while murdering people. Prisoner of war, 1965 through 1973, consultant Pat Robertson of Christian Broadcasting Network, 1978 through 1980. Pete Domenici, longtime U.S. Senator from Mexico. William A. Schreider, longtime President and Chairman of Merrill Lynch. Bernard Doran, French attaché to Ottawa, 1957 through 1959, ambassador to Haiti, 1972 to 1974, and ambassador to South Africa from 1978 until at least 1981. You got that diplomatic immunity, don't you? Prescott Bush, Jr., brother of George Bush, past president and CIA director, Carl Booth Look, board of directors of the Washington Times and the Nicaraguan Freedom Fund. NFF, one of the many front groups for Reverend, or I'm assuming Reverend, REV, Sun Myung Moon's Unification Church, Reverend Sun Myung Moon's Unification Church, which channeled $350,000 to the AmeriCares Foundation in Connecticut. J. Peter Grace, chairman of Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty Fund, a CIA front invested with Nazi collaborators, chairman of the American Institute for Free Labor Development, another CIA-funded organization, and president of W.R. Grace, a major American chemical company, who, along with Ambrose, the State Department, acknowledged Grace's help in bringing Nazi war criminals to the U.S. through Project Paperclip. Myron Taylor, President Truman's envoy to the Vatican. James, is it Jesus or Jesus? I'm going to say Jesus. James Jesus Angleton, former chief of counterintelligence for the CIA, liaison to the Warren Commission, followed the Kennedy assassination. John Farrell, past president of U.S. Steel. Rockefeller, Nazis, and eugenics. While pursuing the internet, I came upon a most relevant article concerning the Rockefeller Foundation's support for eugenics, the movement aimed at killing or sterilizing people whose hereditary, according to author Anton Chatkin, made them a public burden. The Rockefeller Foundation, Chatkin chronicled, became the prime promoter of depopulation activities by the United Nations. Moreover, evidence showed the foundation and its corporate, medical, and political associates organized the racial mass murder program of Nazi Germany. Oil monopolist John D. Rockefeller, Chatkin recalled, created the Rockefeller Foundation in 1909, and by 1929 had invested $300 million worth of the family's controlling interests in Standard Oil Company of New Jersey, now called Exxon, into the foundation's account. According to Chatkin, this money created the field of psychiatric genetics and funded the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Psychiatry and the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Anthropology, Eugenics, and Human Hereditary. The Rockefellers' chief executive in charge of these investigations was the fascist Swiss psychiatrist Ernest Rudin, assisted by his protégés Ottmar Verschuer and Frank J. Kallman. In 1932, Chatkin recounted, the British-led eugenics movement designated the Rockefellers' Dr. Rudin as the president of the Worldwide Eugenics Federation. Only a few months later, Hitler rose to power and the Rockefeller-Rudin apparatus became a section of the Nazi state. Rudin then headed the Racial Hygiene Society. Rudin and his staff, as part of the task force of hereditary experts, chaired by SS Chief Heinrich Himmler, drew up the sterilization law in the United States. This law was described as a model law and was adopted in July 1933, as published in the September 1933 Eugenical News, USA, with Hitler's signature attached. Rudin's protégé Verschuer and his assistant, Auschwitz medical chief Joseph Mengele, jointly authored reports for special courts to reinforce Rudin's racial purity law against cohabitation of Aryans and non-Aryans. They also produced films to help sell their racial cleansing ideas. Under the Nazis, Chatkin noted, the German chemical company IG Farben and Rockefeller Standard Oil of New Jersey were effectively a single firm, merged in hundreds of cartel arrangements. IG Farben led, up until 1937, by the Warburg family, Rockefeller's partner in banking and in the design of Nazi German eugenics. During the war, IG Farben built a huge factory at Auschwitz to capitalize on Standard Oil. IG Farben patents to make gasoline from coal with the help of concentration camp slave labor. The SS was then assigned to select and guard the inmates deemed fit for IG Farben's workforce. Those judged unfit were killed. Moreover, Chatkin reported additional Rockefeller-linked Nazi atrocities. In 1936, Rockefeller's Dr. Franz Kalimann interrupted his study of hereditary degeneracy and emigrated to America because he was half Jewish. Kalimann went to New York and established the medical genetics department of the New York State Psychiatric Institute. The Scottish Rite of Freemasonry published Kalimann's study of over 1,000 cases of schizophrenia, which tried to prove its hereditary basis. In the book, Kalimann thanked his longtime boss and mentor, Rudin. Kalimann's book, published in 1938 in the USA and Nazi Germany, was used by the T4 unit as a rationalization to begin in 1939 to the murder of mental patients and various defective people, perhaps most of them children. Gas and lethal injections were used to kill 250,000 until this program, which in the staff's Gas and lethal injections were used to kill 250,000 under this program, in which the staffs for a broader murder program was desensitized and trained. Chatkin detailed additional links between Rockefeller interests and the horrific medical experiments conducted by Joseph Mengele at Auschwitz. In 1943, Joseph Mengele's superior, the director of Rockefeller's Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Anthropology, Eugenics and Human Hereditary in Berlin, Ottmar Verschuer, secured funds for genetic experiments from the German Research Council. In a progress report, Verschuer wrote for the council. He stated, "My co-researcher in this research is my assistant, the anthropologist and physician Mengele. With the permission of the Reichsfuhrer SS Himmler, anthropological research is being undertaken on the various racial groups in the concentration camps, and blood samples will be sent to my laboratory for investigation." Mengele and Verschuer were especially interested in studying twins during their special protein investigation that required daily blood drawings. Needles were stabbed into people's eyes for eye color experiments. Others were injected with foreign blood and infectious agents. Limbs and organs were commonly removed, occasionally without anesthetics. Women were sterilized, men were castrated, and sexes were surgically altered. Thousands were butchered, and their heads, eyeballs, limbs, and organs were delivered to Mengele, Verschuer, and the Rockefeller contingent at the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute. It'd be funny for the trannies that are getting their balls chopped off and getting a pussy put in, that this medical knowledge came from the Nazis. Later in 1946, Verschuer, according to Chatkin, requested assistance from the Bureau of Human Hereditary in London to keep his scientific research going. A year later, the Bureau moved to Copenhagen, and its new Danish facility was built with Rockefeller money. It was here that the first International Congress in Human Genetics convened. A decade later, Verschuer became a member of the American Eugenics Society, an organizational clone of Rockefeller's Population Council. According to Chatkin, Dr. Kalimann directed the American Eugenics Society from 1954 to 1965. He helped rescue Verschuer by testifying at his denazification hearings, and it was Kalimann who created the American Society of Human Genetics, organizers of the Human Genome Project, currently a $3 billion effort to map the genetics of humanity along with each race's special disease susceptibilities. Man, I've been talking too long. Jesus. During the 1950s, the Rockefellers reorganized the U.S. eugenics movement in their own family offices, with spin-off population control and abortion groups, and the Eugenics Society's address changed to the Society for the Study of Social Biology, its current name. Moreover, with support from the Rockefellers, the Eugenics Society England set up a subcommittee called the International Planned Parenthood Federation, which for 12 years had no other address than the Eugenics Society. In conclusion, Chatkin observed the Rockefeller Foundation had long financed the eugenics movement in England and its private international apparatus, which has set the world up for a global holocaust under the United Nations flag. Ain't that the truth? And we will do Chapter 19, CIA in Africa, tomorrow.